to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss.
And I'm Jessica Clemons.
This is a breakdown of Defenders, all 8 episodes in that 2017 season.
As Daredevil Born Again comes to Disney Plus on March 4th, we're going back to break down all of the Daredevil Netflix seasons, Season 1, Season 2, and the Defenders, and Season 3, going episode by episode to break down everything you might have missed.
And yeah, the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again will be out on Disney Plus on March 4th, and here on the New Rockstars channel, you'll be able to see us react the same night to those first 2 episodes, and we're gonna do that week by week, in addition to our in-depth Easter egg breakdowns and our conversations on the Break Room channel, where we're gonna take your questions in a live stream and answer them in real time. So be sure to subscribe to both channels in the New Rockstars network. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Between Season 2 of Daredevil and this Defenders limited series, Netflix also released Season 1 of Luke Cage and Season 1 of Iron Fist, and given that there's a billboard in the Born Again trailer for Harlem's Paradise, the nightclub featured in Luke Cage, who knows what other stuff from those or the Defenders might make its way in.
And yeah, you might have seen how this week there was a full write-up in GQ about what happened with Daredevil Born Again, how Punisher writer Dario Scardapane was brought in after 6 episodes of the original version of the show were shot by the time of the Hollywood labor union strikes in summer 2023. And as Marvel Studios decided to retool the show, Scardapane rehired much of the original cast and crew from this Netflix era, including Deborah Ann Woll, Karen Page, Eldon Henson, Foggy Nelson, and Phil Silvera, the stunt coordinator who created a lot of the great action. Vincent D'Onofrio reportedly told Kevin Feige that they weren't happy with the original version, and that was enough to get Scardapane to take over and write 3 whole new episodes and fit it in with the original story to make it all canonical with the Netflix era that we're about to revisit. So all it takes is a guy from Full Metal Jacket to whine to the studio boss.
Full Metal Jacket? Don't you mean Law and Order, Criminal Intent?
Oh, don't you mean, oh,
more sugar!
like this? All right, let's go back into Defenders.
Episode 1 is titled The H Word, which is heroes, the word Jessica Jones doesn't want to even hear because it's not how she sees herself. The episode starts in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. The camera pans down to the sewer with the cracked walls. This episode will end with the foundation of a different city cracked and broken.
A sword-wielding Shaft, a member of the Chaste, fights a woman with double katana blades. We later find out that this is Elektra, back from the dead after being resurrected by the Hand. Danny Rand, aka Iron Fist, cuts in on the fight with an assist from Colleen Wing, his sidekick slash love interest, who I think is really the better star of that show, in my opinion. As Danny jumps into the fray, everything is bathed in green light, and we'll talk more about how this show uses color in just a bit.
Yeah, and Elektra stabs Shaft and then slashes Danny, who activates his Iron Fist and punches her in the chest. As each Defender is introduced in this episode, they use their signature superpower so the audience knows what's up. Elektra flees and Shaft dies, but not before he tells Danny to go home to New York City, where the upcoming war will take place.
So a little backstory on Danny Rand. He and his very wealthy parents were in a plane accident when he was young, and that's why the turbulence later on unnerves him. His parents died, but Danny survived and was raised from that point on by the monks in Kunlun, a mystical city with a protector known as the Iron Fist. When Danny grew up, he took on the title of Iron Fist, but left his post to return to his birthplace of New York City. Because of the company his father founded, he is a billionaire, and after he left his post, Kunlun was attacked, and a bunch of the monks were killed. Danny met Colleen Wing, a martial arts instructor in New York City. She was trained to be betrayed by the Hand, so the two teamed up to take them on. Also, since Danny left Kunlun early, he wasn't fully trained, so using the Iron Fist takes a lot of energy, and it takes him a long time until he can use it again, which is why he isn't just darting around all over, Iron Fist punching every bad guy.
The Defenders opening credits are awesome and sick. It combines elements of each hero show's openings: Daredevil's red, Jessica Jones' bluish purple, Luke Cage yellow, and Iron Fist's green color, and a satellite view of New York as each character is silhouetted. Then maps of the city and their colors fill in the outline. The title appears in concrete, the concrete of New York that will crack underneath them.
So then we cut to Jessica Jones, bathed in blue, passed out in a bar in the morning. This show uses different lighting colors depending on which character is being focused on. It's almost like this pilot is made up of 4 different mini pilots with different soundtracks and shot styles for each.
Trish Walker, Jessica's adoptive sister and bestie, begs a cop not to tow her car before Jessica just yanks it free from the hitch, demonstrating her signature super strength. Since Jessica took out Kilgrave, a villain with mind control abilities, she stopped taking PI cases.
Quick shots of the city transition to Luke Cage, bathed in yellow light, being released from Seagate Prison. Luke was initially sent there after his half-brother framed him for murder. A half-brother who's now in The Raft might be the same one from the end of Captain America Brave New World, but we'll, get to that. Luke fought in an underground prison fighting ring, but was beaten close to death when he threatened to expose it. The prison psychiatrist and a doctor put him through an experimental process that healed him, but left him with impenetrable skin. He escaped and assumed a fake identity, but then he took down a bunch of criminal overlords in Harlem and was exposed for who he really was. He was sent back to prison to serve out his sentence, but was ultimately cleared, and everyone now considers him the savior of Harlem, hence why all the other prisoners are cheering for him here. The lawyer who helped him secure his release is none other than Foggy Nelson, still working at Hogarth, Chow, and Benowitz.
Foggy tells Luke that the law firm is at his disposal if he needs help starting over, and Luke then says this.
I'm not starting over, Mr. Nelson. I'm moving forward.
This was something Pops used to say to him. That was the man who owned the barbershop where Luke worked. He was killed because these shows just love killing older black male mentor types. Rest in peace, Pops, Ben Urich, and Detective Clemons. No relation.
Luke asks if Claire is coming to meet him. He and Claire are dating now, but he also used to hook up with Jessica. And by hookup, I mean destroy a lot of furniture. IKEA has never has seen such an influx
Why are
of
you
sales.
trying to return this? It's destroyed.
And yes, to be clear, Claire used to hook up with Matt. Everybody.
And that's how this show likes it. I hope they only bring this part over to the Disney MCU. Matt practices a cross-examination for a trial. His Braille typewriter bathed in his signature red from the light coming in through the window. He uses super hearing to hear a car crash and a driver altercation, but he lets the cops handle it, signaling that he's put his vigilante days behind him for now. It cuts to him in court to hammer this home. This is the same courtroom where Frank Castle's trial was held, if you remember, and Matt wins his pro bono case against a big company, wins a bunch of money for a mother and her disabled son, and Matt seems to be doing some good even without being Daredevil.
Colleen and Danny fly to New York on his private jet. He has a nightmare about the dead Kunlun monks. The tattoo on his chest is the mark of Shu Lao. That's the dragon one must defeat before they can gain the power of the Iron Fist.
It cuts to a new character original to the series, Alexandra Reed, played by Sigourney Weaver, a white lady wearing all white in a white hospital bathed in white light. White is a combination of all of the colors on the spectrum, but particularly the red, blue, green, and yellow we've already seen, and she's the one who's going to force the Defenders to come together. Alexandra's dying, and her organs are all close to collapse. She has a short time to live, and there's nothing medicine can do for her. She presses her hand against the glass of her changing room, a hint at who she is.
Later, we discover that she's the leader of the 5 founders of The Hand. She's the only character we've ever seen Madame Gao take orders from. They meet on the same rooftop garden at Rockefeller Center where Gao met with Wilson Fisk in season 1 of Daredevil, the same spot that was on the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man film. Alex has a plan for The Hand, but her diagnosis means that they'll have to accelerate that plan. It involves Elektra as the Black Sky, and at the end of this episode, Alex tells her this as an earthquake rolls the city.
It's just a city. You'll get used to watching them fall.
The villains on these shows are always shown to be dismissive of or outright disgusted by the city, whereas the heroes like Matt love the city and feel the need to protect it. We also know that Gao is over 400 years old, which means that Alex is likely even older than that, and in that time, you can watch a lot of cities fall. The Hand can grant people immortality, so like Ben Linus getting a spinal tumor on the island in Lost, Alexandra getting sick and actually dying signals that something has gone very wrong. The magical substance they used to keep resurrecting themselves was all used up to resurrect Black Sky Elektra.
Michelle Raymond tries to hire Jessica to investigate the disappearance of her husband, John, but Jessica isn't interested until she gets a phone call threatening her to stay away from the case, because that's what Jessica Jones does. She's like, okay, now I'm gonna do it. Jessica's door is still broken and her office is still totally destroyed from the events at the end of Jessica Jones season 1, which is absolutely hilarious because she also lives and sleeps there and there's a giant gaping hole in her wall.
More quick transition cuts of New York, the bridge, the skyline. These end on Luke on a bus. He passes by the Apollo Theater and the Clayton Powell Jr. State Office Building, both in Harlem, and Pop's now closed barbershop. On the side of the bus is an ad for the New Harlem Renaissance. That's Luke's adversary, Mariah Dillard's plan as councilwoman to preserve and build up Harlem. She funded it with money from illegal gun sales from her cousin, Cottonmouth's criminal empire. Cottonmouth, yes, future Blade actor at some point of the MCU, Mahershala Ali. She was kind of like the Wilson Fisk of the Luke Cage series.
Claire's waiting for Luke and she asks if he wants to grab coffee, which was code for sex in Luke Cage, and then these two go at it. Luke mentions a poem Claire wrote him when he was in prison, which he says she ripped off from Nikki Giovanni. She's a poet best known for her poems about the Black experience.
Misty Knight shows up. She and Luke Cage also boned. She is a detective who was wary of Luke at first, but eventually teamed up with him. She tells him young men in Harlem have suddenly been getting new, suspicious jobs, making a lot of money, and then turning up dead. She asks him to check in on Cole, one of the kids whose brother and sister recently passed away. Luke finds him, but Cole turns down down his offer of help. In his apartment, there's a poster for rapper Jidenna's Long Live the Chief. Jidenna appeared in episode 5 of Luke Cage and performed this song on stage at Harlem's Paradise.
Matt and Karen catch up over coffee, actual coffee, not the sex kind. Okay. I know you guys were confused. She's still working at the New York Bulletin, and in season 2 of Daredevil, it ended with Matt telling Karen he was Daredevil, and he lies to her here when he says he doesn't miss his vigilante days. They're not romantically together anymore because Karen felt they needed to figure themselves out first. Also, Matt still kind of has a thing and is hung up on Elektra, who he thinks is dead.
Quick shots of New York subway trains transition to Jessica drinking whiskey and researching John Raymond. Jessica's neighbor Malcolm walks in. He was mind controlled by Kilgrave to become a heroin addict and keep tabs on Jessica. But he's clean now that Kilgrave is dead. Malcolm's excited to see Jessica working on a case again. She tracks the earlier phone call to a payphone in a sketchy part of town and ends up in John Raymond's hotel room. Inside, she finds crates packed with C4 bricks.
In Matt's apartment, he senses something is wrong. He hears dogs barking like crazy and pigeons flying frantically outside his window. Who could hear that? Then he feels the earthquake. Jessica feels it next, then Colleen and Danny, who just sat down in New York to find the concrete cracking under their feet. Finally, Luke saves a woman from getting beamed by a streetlight down in the earthquake.
As the camera circles around a shocked Matt, we see all the colors together. The red and blue from the cop car lights and the yellow and the green from the street lights, foreshadowing how this group of 4 will come together to fight this threat.
Episode 2, Mean Right Hook, opens with an overhead tilted street view of the chaotic aftermath of the earthquake before the camera pivots and circles to Matt perched on the rooftop in his lawyer's suit. He's clearly wishing he was down there in the fray as Daredevil as he hears calls for help in the police unit requesting assistance. The din gets louder as the looting begins, and him hearing a shop owner pull a gun on a couple of teens is what makes him spring into action. He knocks out the dude, and in a little bit of a ham-fisted hammer home of his identity crisis, another person asks,
Who are you?
and the camera then frames Matt in a tilted horizontal angle before he walks away into red-tinted smoke.
Concerned citizens call into Trish's talk show, Trish Talk. Post 9/11, any New York disaster of this magnitude would spark panic. Also, in the universe, they did survive the incident and need a freaking break before another alien invasion or terrorist attack. A geologist calls in to contradict the official report that this was an earthquake, but before she can elaborate, Trish's bosses cut off the call, an obvious sign that there is a shady cover-up happening.
Jessica calls in the cops, including Misty, to deal with a hotel room full of C4. Before she leaves, Jessica grabs one of the packaging slips from the C4 crates and uses it to find the listed company in the library's records. Going back every few years, the company changed names and transferred assets from Shell Company to Shell Company, and in 1935, the asset transfer was to Yoshioka Corporation. That would be Nobu Yoshioka, who Matt fought in Daredevil. Jessica tracks the company as far back as 1820, but needs to go to the historical branch to search back before that.
Hogarth shows up and tries to warn Jessica that because the FBI is now involved, she should back off the case. But every time anyone does that, it only makes her more determined to keep investigating. Hogarth knows that she's not going to stop, so she tasks Foggy with keeping an eye on her, telling him that when she inevitably gets into trouble with the law, he should keep the mess as far away from their law firm as possible.
Matt is still reeling after his brief foray back into vigilantism, and he opens the crate containing his suit. But he's saved by the bell as Foggy calls him, and the two catch up over drinks at Josie's. Foggy closed out their long-running tab at the bar at the end of season 2, and it seems they haven't been back ever since. They're obviously just not as close as they once were because the hangout is awkward as hell. And Foggy hands Matt some case files that he says he doesn't have time to handle, and surprise, one of those cases is Jessica's.
When Jessica gets back to her apartment, John Raymond is there waiting for her, holding a gun to Malcolm's head. He's convinced she's working for someone who's after him because he knows too much. Before Jessica can talk him down, Elektra shows up and Raymond shoots herself in the head. Jessica chases Elektra, but she's in the wind. And Misty finds Jessica with a dead body in her apartment and blood on her face, so she arrests her. But her new superstar attorney, Matt Murdock, shows up to represent her. This is also how they met in the Alias comics when Jessica was being investigated for a murder and Matt was sent by Luke to represent her.
Luke finds Turk and pumps him for any info on why the young men in Harlem are ended up dead. And Turk says there's a new player in town and that they call him White Hat. Luke tracks the guy down, whose real name is Sowande. He's played by Dune's Babs Olusamokun. Luke sees him leave with 4 teens, including Cole.
Danny and Colleen go back to her dojo. Colleen says Shaft must have sent them to New York to find others to join the fight, but Danny isn't keen on the idea of joining a team. Danny is a petulant little shit because he's emotionally and intellectually stunted from the plane crash when he was a kid, so he often lashes out. But eventually, he defers to Colleen, who researched the sword Shaft used, a very rare Tsukamoto design. There's a workshop in New York that works on them. Tsukamoto is a nod to Japanese filmmaker Shinya Tsukamoto.
They go to the workshop and find a whole bunch of dead Chase members. The 4 Harlem kids come in wearing respirator masks and holding spray canisters. They start dissolving the bodies, and Danny grabs Cole Colton threatens him for info, but Luke intervenes. Danny starts to fight Luke and is shocked when his kicks and punches have absolutely zero effect on the dude. So he activates his iron fist and punches Luke in the face and sends him flying. The slow-mo face punch is the same one a goon did to Luke and Luke Cage, but in that instance, the guy's hand was shattered. Danny has better luck. The cops show up and arrest Cole, but Danny, Colleen, and Luke take off.
Meanwhile, a private string quartet plays a Brahms piece for Alexandra. She gave a generous donation to the Philharmonic and talks about Brahms like she knew him. Johann Brahms was alive from 1833 to 1897, giving us some more insight for how long she's been around. Gal shows up and tells Alexandra that there's a wall with Kunlun inscriptions blocking the way of something they're trying to get to. Alexandra says it's not a wall, it's a door, and they just need the right key. Turns out she's got Stick handcuffed back at one of her villain lairs. She tells him that everyone else on his side is now dead.
Episode 3, Worst Behavior, is the episode where this show really starts cooking. It opens with a flashback set immediately after the end of the events of Daredevil Season 2.
Alexandra eats at a Turkish restaurant and tells the restaurant owner that the food is even better than they make in Constantinople. Any fan of They Might Be Giants knows that it's now called Istanbul and not Constantinople.
No.
The city was officially renamed Istanbul in 1930. However, the Turkish people were calling it by that name since they conquered the region in 1453, which makes Alexandra at least 564 years old.
She's over 100 years older than Madame Gao. That's insane. And Madame Gao, pure respect.
Also, she'll never retire.
Yeah, please. When is Madame Gao gonna get her promotion? She never can because this woman is over like 500 years old.
Yeah, she'll never downsize her home. She'll vote in every election.
So Wanda walks in and tells Alexandra that they have the Black Sky, but reviving her will use up the last of their resources. Alexandra and the members of the Hand place Elektra's dead body in the resurrection sarcophagus, and sometime later, her goo-covered hand emerges from beneath the lid like Dracula or some other classic horror movie monster from the 1930s. Elektra doesn't know where she is and can't speak, and she freaks out, but like a good mama, Alexandra soothes her, and Elektra imprints on her new mama, who calls her my child.
Alexandra says that what Elektra saw on the other side of death was horrifying, the darkness and the absence of everything. And I always loved this like Marvel depiction of death because it made me think like, oh, well then what is on the other side of the afterlife when we see things like the snap happen or other forms of death in future Marvel titles? This is just like a very, very grim depiction of it. Also, did she see Aubrey Plaza's face? I mean, are we to say that death is there for all these deaths?
Death only comes to those that are deserving. Like Aubrey Plaza's death only comes to those that are deserving. This poor woman was just like, I died.
Yeah.
It was darkness.
Okay, I get it. Or just the lights were off. Aubrey Plaza was there. Alexandra says she has seen this herself but never wants to again, so now we know why she's so determined to live forever. Alexandra says that speech and the ability to fight will come back to Elektra and that everything else is gone, but when Elektra walks down a line of weapons, she pauses by the side. This and her later seeming momentary recognition of her name when Matt speaks indicates that she isn't exactly the perfect empty vessel with no memories that Alexandra thinks she is. Elektra chooses two short twin wakizashi swords, and Alexandra praises her choice, saying they won't see it coming until it's too late, foreshadowing Alexandra's own death at the hands of Elektra and these particular weapons. Elektra trains, and this whole sequence is set to a gorgeous score by John Pisano.
In present day, Alexandra asks Stick where the Iron Fist is, but he grabs a sword and chops off his own hand to escape the handcuffs and hightails it out of there. I need to see the sequence. Where is she? Just dips out. He makes it to Colleen's dojo, but he's in rough shape.
In the police station interrogation room, Jessica is hostile as hell to Matt Murdock, who's there to help, but this is very on brand for her. This scene is bathed in blue light, but Matt takes out a red folder. It's her scene, and he's just a small part of it. Matt read her file and knew she had abilities, and his curiosity was piqued. Her investigation into John Raymond's death leads her to Midland Circle Enterprises, and Matt follows her. He thinks he's being stealthy, but Jessica clocks the fact that she's being tailed. At one point, she passes by a bus stop ad with, hey, Stan Lee's face on it.
Aww. At Claire's, Luke ices his face and fills Claire in on the skinny white guy with a glowing fist that punched him. She rolls her eyes and calls up Colleen. At the end of season 1 of Luke Cage, Claire started taking classes at Colleen's dojo, and then she also met Danny in Iron Fist season 1. So she knows there's only one skinny white dude with a glowing fist Luke can be talking about right now.
The two superheroes have a terrible first official meeting.
He punched me. You punched first.
Seriously?
How come he can't be hurt? What's the deal with that fist?
In the comics, likes these two become besties and form heroes for hire. But right now, they hate each other. Claire and Colleen run a little bit of interference, but Luke is still mad that Danny was ready to beat up Harlem youth in his personal vendetta against the Hand. Luke calls Danny out on his white privilege, and this could be a little nod to some of the audience feedback about Iron Fist Season 1, that Danny was a whiny, rich white dude. But after Luke leaves, Danny actually takes in what he said and adjusts in the same way that Marvel might have listened and adjusted a bit for Iron Fist Season 2, which was much improved from the first season. Danny visits Rand Enterprises, and his research also leads him to Midland Circle.
Luke visits Cole in prison, but Cole winds up dead. Luke goes to see Cole's mother, the same woman he saved from a falling lamppost, and finds a parking stub for Midland Circle.
Danny gets to the building first, and he's in a pretty sweet business suit. He demands to see the CEOs, and he's determined to use his position of power as Rand Enterprises owner to change things instead of fighting. But dude's in for a surprise, because in the middle of this impassioned speech, Alexandra enters and is unfazed. All the boring-looking, well-dressed suits in the boardroom are actually goons of the Hand, and they pull weapons out from seemingly nowhere. And this reveal is awesome. The fight scene that follows is probably better than any of the fight scenes we saw in Iron Fist Season 1. The writing for Danny is honestly just better in this Defenders crossover series.
Danny gets in the weeds and Luke busts in to help. Danny then says this.
So punching's okay now?
Complicated.
Luke learned a little something from Danny too. After Cole was murdered, he realized the Hand is crazy dangerous, and maybe the only way to beat them up is through violence, as much as he hates it. But also, it's complicated means punching kids in Harlem trying to earn money for their families is a lot different than punching evil corporate overlord assassins.
The two work together, with Danny at one point being shielded from bullets by Luke, and damn, I really wish we got the Heroes for Hire spinoff that we deserve. There's still time, Marvel. We could do a Luke Cage colleague.
Yeah, I was like,
for Hire.
I would eat that up.
Yeah,
that's fine. Adjust. You can adjust.
Claire can be there.
Claire's just there.
Yeah, dressed as Ahsoka.
She's like, what the fuck is going on? Jessica arrives at the building with Matt behind her. He hears a gunshot and parkours up the stairwell. And this is also just very hilarious because Jessica takes the elevator and arrives at the exact same time. We get some of their amazing dynamic when he borrows her scarf as a makeshift balaclava to hide his face.
You look like an asshole.
Sure, scarf.
And I just love this group just roasting each other all the time.
All four Defenders see one another, and it is team up time, baby! It's what we've been waiting for! And now that they're together, their individual colors are mostly muted or gone, replaced by the whites and the grays that are created when all colors are mixed. It's a classic hallway fight scene that these shows do so well.
Just when they think they all have a handle on things, Black Sky Elektra shows up, and Matt doesn't identify her until he hears her breath when they fight one-on-one, and she pauses when he says her name. But then she goes in for a killing blow, and Danny Iron Fist punches her sword just in time, shattering it and knocking her back.
All four of them make it to the elevator. These shows also love some clever elevator scenes, and Danny asks,
Who are you people?
"They're the Defenders, baby!" And we cut to black as the doors close.
Episode 4, titled The Royal Dragon, is a bottle episode, and that bottle is the Royal Dragon restaurant. The group rushes in and uses this poor man's Chinese restaurant as a hideout. They're each amazed at various aspects of one another. Danny comments on how freakishly strong Jessica is. Jessica is shocked that he speaks Chinese and refers to him as Karate Kid. Luke wonders how Matt can hear neon, and Danny gets the restaurant owner to agree to let them stay by offering to pay his rent for the next 6 months. The place is lit, so each of their colors is represented. They share intel over Chinese food, just like the Avengers shared shawarma after their first big team up. Matt is cagey and refuses to take off his mask or admit he knows Elektra, but Jessica figured out that he's Daredevil and he's shook by it.
Every member of the group has different motivations for wanting in. Jessica wants to crack the John Raymond case. Matt wants to figure out what the deal is with Elektra. Danny wants to take down the Hand for destroying Kunlun. And since, as he keeps telling literally everyone, he is the immortal Iron Fist, protector of Kunlun. And Luke wants to protect Harlem's youth. They all still pretty much hate each other and don't want to work together though, and they're bickering nonstop. Eventually, Jessica convinces Matt to take off her scarf and join the others.
Black Sky Elektra examines the wounds that killed her, and after Nobu was resurrected, his face was still scarred from the burns that killed him. So clearly the resurrection chamber can only repair so much. Alexander reminds her that she's the Black Sky now, so the woman who used to inhabit this body no longer matters.
It cuts to the exterior of the restaurant. The camera pans up to show the neon sign, moves through it, and then through a skylight and down into the restaurant. An homage to the classic shot from Citizen Kane at the El Rancho restaurant.
The group eats and discusses their options. Enter Stick to be the fucked up mentor to this fucked up team. Jessica's the first to throw in the towel and takes off once the mystical conspiracy talk kicks in. Once she's gone, Luke asks Stick to tell the remaining 3 everything he knows.
Stick says that a long time ago, the elders of Kunlun studied how to harness chi, the energy of life itself, to use it to heal, but 5 members broke away and sought out immortality instead. They were banished from Kunlun and became the 5 fingers of the hand: Alexandra, Gao, Sawande, Bakuto, he was seemingly killed in the Iron Fist series, and Murakami, Nobu's boss. They grew in power and influence and were responsible for such disasters as Pompeii and Chernobyl. Yep, somewhere in the background of that HBO series, there was a member of the hand who just caused that positive void coefficient to just flux in some way and put some graphite tips on the rods that go into RB&K reactors in the Soviet Union. They decided to design them that way.
Oh my god. Back in her apartment, Jessica goes through the shell company records she got from the library and realizes all the signatures on them are the same over hundreds of years, even though the names change. The same person has been changing their name but signing the documents and is hundreds of years old.
Alexandra speaks with Murakami, who pulls an RFK Jr. and cuts open a bear carcass while they discuss the hand's depleted resources and the fact that they need to now all be more careful about courting death with no way to reverse it. Alexandra wants all the heads of the hand to take care of the threat of the defenders together.
Alexandra shows up at the restaurant to threaten them and all of the people of New York unless Danny goes with her. When he refuses, Black Sky Electra bursts in. But before she can mess things up, Jessica throws a freaking Ford SUV into her through the window of the restaurant. Then Jessica rejoins the group with a smirking, "Who missed me?" And she's definitely my favorite person. She is the MVP of this team up.
And we have to imagine the Seven Fishes episode of The Bear probably was inspired by this moment, right?
They watched this episode?
Yeah, they're like, who's that?
And honestly, and that's the thing, is Jessica Jones is always drunk, so it's like, yeah, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Unhappy family, bickering at each other, moment of tension. Yeah.
That's so funny.
It tracks.
That's so funny.
On to episode 5, Take Shelter. The fingers of the hand converge on the Royal Dragon restaurant. Stick, Matt, Jessica, Luke, and Danny fight Black Sky Electra, Murakami, and Gao and her henchmen, and Sawande and his militants armed with machine guns. Gao reminds them that they need to take Danny alive. Stick says that the defenders' only hope is to fight together, but Matt pulls an audible and gets Black Sky Electra alone to try to reason with her. She fights him, but pauses when he calls her name, and then takes off.
Whoa, and then she's gone.
Me?
No, me? Oh no!
Who is that girl?
Girl, you are a vessel. You are a vessel. You're
Why
not
is
in
it
there.
familiar to me?
Ugh, God, it's okay, Electra. The group escapes down into the sewer and goes back to Colleen's dojo. Luke nabs Sawande and has him tied up in the back of his own van. They question him, and hilariously, he calls Danny the dumbest Iron Fist yet. Isn't he? Isn't he? Sawande knows about their failures, Danny being unable to protect the monks in Kunlun, Luke letting Cole die in jail, and Jessica letting John die. He also knows about their loved ones and threatens them, mentioning the nurse, that's Claire, and the woman on the radio, Trish.
Luke goes to get Claire to safety, and I love how he changes out of his bullet-riddled hoodie and puts on an identical, undamaged hoodie. Like he must have a closet full of these identical generic hoodies because he just keeps getting shot at. Send this man some free hoodies.
Yeah, get him some
He's
free
earned
hoodies.
them.
He needs them. Alexandra tells Electra that she had a daughter in her first life before going to Kunlun. Death took her daughter before Alexandra learned to defeat it. Aubrey Plaza?
Aubrey Plaza took her daughter.
Oh my God.
Death has a name and a face now.
Literally. Remember this. We all need to keep notes of all these things now. She's obviously using the Black Sky as a surrogate daughter now and keeps trying to connect with her, but she also makes it clear that if the Black Sky can't fulfill its duties, it's of no use to her.
Turns out Bakuto's not dead. I guess the hand still had resources to bring him back after he was killed in Iron Fist. He greets Colleen. He was her sensei before she realized he was with an evil faction of the hand. He tries to lure her back to his side, but she refuses, and he slashes her across the stomach. Luke intervenes before Bakuto can finish her. They take her to Misty at the police station to keep her safe.
Matt convinces Karen to go somewhere safe for a few days, and in case the hand knows who he is and goes after people he cares about. Jessica goes to get Trish to safety, but Murakami finds them, and Matt shows up in time in his Daredevil getup, and once again, Jessica gives him the business about how dumb he looks.
The scarf looked better. Nice ears.
They're horns.
And also, I guess they ad-libbed this exchange, which honestly, more reason to give them a spinoff and let me watch all of it.
Yep. Trish, Malcolm, Karen, and Foggy join Colleen and Claire at Misty Station. All the sidekicks are chatting and bonding. Trish and Malcolm end up boning in Jessica Jones season 2, and we see some very light, flirty chemistry here between them. Colleen and Misty meet for the first time. In the comics, these two will team up to form the Daughters of the Dragon, and they'd often pair up to solve cases with Heroes for Hire.
Stick wants Matt to lead the Defender, saying Iron Fist can't lead them like he can. The others see Matt's Matt's Billy Club in action have a little bit of equipment envy.
So cool. I mean, it's kind of cool.
Sawande refuses to answer their questions, and when Jessica, Luke, and Danny find out that Matt wasn't honest with them about knowing Elektra, they bicker again. While they're distracted, Sawande frees himself and grabs Danny, proclaiming the war over since he now has what he wants. But the victory lap is a little premature because Stick immediately cuts Sawande's freaking head off.
There he goes again. Stick just cutting everything this season. He goes. There's also trouble in paradise with the 4 remaining fingers of the hand. Bakuto, Gao, and Murakami are pissed at Alexandra and nervous now that Daredevil and Iron Fist are paired up. They know Elektra had a connection with Daredevil, and Murakami says that Alexandra failed them when she used the last of the substance to resurrect the Black Sky, leaving them all vulnerable. Love that they call the resurrection blood goo the substance. It's more timely than ever right now.
Yeah. Do you think this was going to end with Alexandra's face just on her Hollywood star?
Yeah, what if Alexandra actually just wanted the Black Sky's body? She was like, that was supposed to be my vessel.
Alexandra's just like cutting up food in her kitchen just with her hair all crazy. Alexandra goes to find Black Sky Elektra, her only ally left, but that girl is gone. She took off to go to Matt's apartment to lay in his bed like a creeper. Bringing us to episode 6, Ashes, Ashes. Alexandra listens to a record on an antique gramophone, another Brahms tune. The record starts skipping since it's probably old as hell, and this is just the start of a very bad day for the leader of the Hand.
Ooh, she's pissed. Stick realized that Danny is a literal key to open something that the Hand wants open, so the group thinks it would be best to keep him hidden away from the action, but Danny is like, hell no, I'm the immortal Iron Fist, stopping the Hand is my destiny, because I think he's contractually obligated to say that once per episode for the rest of eternity. He fights Matt, Jessica, and Luke and eventually gets knocked out and tied up, thank God.
Matt tells the others about the giant hole he found a while back in Midland Circle. Luke stays behind with Stick to guard Danny, and Matt and Jessica go to see what they can find out. Their whole pairing is amazing, and Ritter and Cox just have such great chemistry and comedic timing together that if she doesn't show up in Daredevil Born Again, I'm going to actually be angry.
I'm gonna choke myself out.
The two go to John's house and talk to his daughter Lexi. She mentioned that towards the end he wasn't eating and he'd stay up all night pacing or playing the piano. This puts Matt's investigatory senses on high alert, and he goes over to the piano to play a few notes of the Defenders theme. Now, the D sharp key sounds off, and inside the piano, they discover architectural plans for whatever is at the bottom of the Midland Circle hole. John wanted to use the C4 to collapse the structure down and to seal it off.
Elektra dreams of her old life and canoodling with Matt, and when she wakes up in his apartment, she finds a funeral card for her own funeral and goes to the cemetery to check out her gravesite. Alexandra finds her there and confesses that she's dying, so she needs the Black Sky to fulfill this purpose and help them use the Iron Fist to open the door and get more resurrection substance. Alexandra is desperately trying to get Elektra back on her side because Sawande's dead and Gao, Murakami, and Bakuto have turned on her.
While Luke guards Danny, he reads the New York Bulletin with the headline, "Tremor rocks New York." He and Danny bond a little, but Stick uses incense smoke to knock Luke out because he wants to be free to kill Danny so the Hand can't use him. But before he succeeds, Elektra busts in. She's doing a lot of busting in and kills Stick, and RIP every member of the Chased. Matt and Jessica rush in, but Elektra knocks out all 3 heroes, grabs Danny, smash jumps out of a window, and superhero lands on the street below. And yes, this is after Deadpool came out and coined superhero landing. She brings him back to the Hands complex, and a smug Alexandra is like, "I told you so," to the other 3. She starts evil monologuing, but then Elektra stabs her in the back and tells Gao, Bakuto, and Murakami that they work for her now. Oh, and then she beheads Alexandra for good measure. This show just killed off the main big bad with 2 whole episodes
and there's
left.
2 whole episodes left. They said,
and there's so many
what do
other
you think
things
is gonna
Sigourney
happen?
Weaver could do in these.
I know, they straight up
They could have cast other.
Yeah, they decapitated her.
Yeah.
But that's kind of fun to decapitate Sigourney Weaver. Not in real life, just in the show. I would never do that. Take this out. Episode 7, Fish in the Jailhouse, opens on a flashback from shortly after Elektra left Matt the first time in college. Elektra tells Stick that she failed her mission to recruit Matt to the chase, and Matt will never be able to kill on command like these two do. Elektra asks Stick if there's a way that they can win the war without so much killing, indicating that her time with Matt may have have curbed her more violent tendencies slightly.
But in the present day, Stick lies dead in a pool of his own blood, Elektra's sword still in his chest. Luke, Jessica, and Matt lay unconscious around him. They all wake up in the police station and fill the sidekicks in on what the hell is going on.
Hand goons carry Alexandra's body off, and Gao, Bakuto, and Murakami aren't immediately down with bending the knee to Elektra. The boys are outright hostile, but Gao's smarter, taking a neutral tone and assessing the situation to see how this all shakes out. Elektra wants to take the organization out of the shadows, but makes it clear later that she doesn't actually care about the hand. She just wants that sweet, sweet immortality.
Elektra brings Danny down an elevator to the excavation site at the bottom of the hole. There's a wall with ancient Tibetan writing all over it. Years ago, an Iron Fist used his power to seal the wall. Only another Iron Fist can open it, and behind it lies the true power of the hand. Now all Danny has to do is not use his fist on the wall, but since he is the dumbest Iron Fist ever, he lets himself be baited into fighting Elektra, activating his fist and punching the wall when he tries to punch her.
The immortal Iron Fist is still a thundering dumbass.
You buffoon! Immediately, the lights go out all over New York. Behind the wall is the skeleton of a huge dragon posed in the exact same way as a dragon tattoo on Danny's chest. This is not the skeleton of Shu Lao, the dragon Danny defeated in Kunlun to become the Iron Fist, but rather another earlier dragon that a different fist fought.
Different fist fought. Yeah.
Fisk fought. Yeah, fucking fisty daddy, fisty daddy. Yeah.
At the police station, why did I say like
Why
that?
did you say that?
At the police station, Karen is bummed that Matt's returned to his old ways, especially since he was just starting to rebuild his life. Matt responds, "This is my life," and he's finally made a decision that he's gonna go back to daredeviling, and he's not gonna feel guilty about it, Karen. He's not gonna feel guilty about it, Mom Karen. Foggy is a better friend and brings Matt his Daredevil costume because he knows this is something he's gotta do, and because if Matt's secret identity is exposed, Foggy's also gonna be disbarred. Karen scolds Foggy for giving Matt the suit, and Foggy says he gave it to him so he could finish this, and once it's done, he thinks he'll get Matt back. And oh, you sweet, sweet, dumb, naive summer child.
Jessica, Matt, and Luke don't want to tell the cops the location of the hand since it's too dangerous, so one of them, probably Luke, but maybe Jessica, punches their way through the brick wall of the building so they can all escape. In an amazingly hilarious sequence, they take the subway to Midland Circle. They're grumpy, we're superheroes who have to travel by mass transit faces framed in the window of the subway car. Behind them is an ad for Rand Enterprises, Danny's company, that shows 4 people holding hands.
They get to the building and Gao, Bakuto, and Murakami are waiting for them. The two groups square up and there's a pretty kick-ass fight scene. Matt takes on Bakuto and Murakami, leaving Jessica and Luke to duke it out with Madame Gao, which looks hilarious because she's half their size and more than 4 times their age, but she kicks their asses. Gao can also apparently force punch someone without even touching them, and it lays them out.
Colleen and her katana join the fight. Everyone is using their special skill with Daredevil, Bakuto, and Murakami showing off some insane martial arts moves. Colleen and her amazing swordwork choreography, Gao's one-punch style, and Jessica and Luke's sheer brute force. At one point, Murakami hits a gas pipe, and Bakuto scrapes his sword across the ground, causing the gas to ignite. And Luke, unfazed by the flames, uses his bare hand to seal off the flame and squish the pipe closed. But by then, Murakami, Gao, and Bakuto are gone.
Colleen reveals that she stole the building's plans and some C4 from the police evidence room and thinks that the best way to stop the hand is to seal the wall off again by collapsing the entire building.
Colleen. Go. Bringing us to the last episode, episode 8, The Defenders. Luke isn't down with blowing up a building, but the others convince him on the condition that no innocent people get hurt.
Gao and Elektra walk through the dragon bones, and Gao mentions the dragons once roamed the valleys of her home, but the bones are all that remain now, and once the substance is extracted from the bones, New York will crumble. She echoes that Alexandra told Elektra in this.
It's just a city. They rise, they fall. You see many more.
Luke, Jessica, and Matt go down the elevator to the base of the hole while Colleen and Claire set the explosives. Bakuto finds them, and he and Colleen face off with their katanas. While they fight, Misty calls Claire, who tells her to clear the block.
Hand goons saw up the dragon bones to extract the substance, and Danny starts creeping around and picking them off one by one. Gao finds him and taunts him with a story about his dead mother.
The elevator goes to the bottom, and Murakami, Elektra, and Gao and a whole crap tons of goons are waiting, and the two groups fight. Danny lights up his fist and sends Gao and the others flying, and Wu-Tang's protecting neck kicks in. Luke gets shot a bunch again, so RIP to yet another hoodie.
How many hoodies must die? Misty saves Claire from some goons, but when she tries to stop Ippolito from killing Claire, Misty gets her arm chopped off. But this is the start. This is the start of a good thing that's about to happen. I promise. I promise. This is what the comic fans have been waiting for with this character. In the comic, she gets high-tech, fancy new prosthetic robotic arm courtesy of Tony Stark. In the show, it's developed by Rand Enterprises and gifted to her by Danny and Colleen.
Colleen slices off Bakuto's head, and that's another finger or head of the hand down. Claire makes a tourniquet for Misty so she doesn't bleed out. We get a literal ticking clock now because the explosives start counting down from 10 minutes.
Matt hears the bombs ticking and sends Danny, Luke, and Jessica back up the elevator, but he stays behind to try to get through to Elektra. Before they go, Matt whispers something to Danny, which we find out later is protect my city.
Elektra kicks Matt's ass as he does his best to reason with her, claiming he knows that there's still goodness in her, but she throws a sword at the elevator hydraulics, putting Danny, Jessica, and Luke at risk. Murakami and the other goons drop into the stalled elevator, but Murakami is thrown back down into the hole. Right as the elevator cable snaps, Jessica gets to the ladder and grabs the cable and holds it long enough for Luke and Danny to get out. There's 4 minutes and 15 seconds left until the building goes boom.
We only have 4 minutes and 50 seconds to save the building. No, to take the building down. Sorry, Madonna. Matt and Elektra fight and talk some more, and Matt wonders if they were doomed to this fate for ever thinking it could work between them.
With 9 seconds left, a still alive but badly hurt Murakami asks Gal what's happening, and she replies, the end. Luke, Jessica, Danny, Misty, Claire, and Colleen run out of the building just before it blows up. Below the building, Elektra apologizes to Matt for all the pain she's caused him along the way, and then the building collapses straight down around them as they kiss.
The rest of the group returns to the police station, and Karen and Foggy watch the door, waiting for Matt, then hugging and crying when they realize he just ain't coming.
Sometime later, on Trish Talk, Trish says the mayor blamed the earthquakes on unpermitted construction.
Yeah, okay. You know what? In the MCU, that's all you can really do.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say? It was actually a dragon bone down there.
You should have gotten your permit. Don't forget, kids, get your permit.
Damn.
Foggy tells Claire and Luke that the NYPD is pretending this never happened, and his law firm took care of any pending charges, so legally they're all in the clear. In a hospital owned by Danny, Misty wakes up minus one arm, with Colleen waiting by her bedside. On the patient care board are the names L. Carter, Dr. E. Wortham, Tony Isabella, and Arvell Jones. Linda Carter from the comics is the original night nurse. Wortham is a Spider-Man villain known as Cardiac. Isabella and Jones are the comics writers who created Misty Knight.
Jessica drinks by herself at a bar, and Luke comes in and sits right next to her. He apologizes for everything that happened between them, and she says they should get some coffee sometime. In the comics, these two end up married.
Danny takes Matt's final message to heart and stands above the city, looking decidedly daredevil-y, looking out for the people below.
Karen and Foggy have a very small service for Matt at the church, but they don't know that Matt's not actually dead, because there's a third season of Daredevil to get on with, which is what we'll be breaking down next. Matt comes to heavily bandaged in a bed with a nun sitting by his bedside. She tells someone off screen to get Maggie, tell her he's awake. Maggie is Matt's mom, and we get to know all about her and her messed up past in Daredevil Season 3.
And that is it for our Defenders breakdown. Huge thanks to Gina Ippolito for writing this script and watching all these shows and doing all the research for us here. Comment down below with your thoughts. Follow us on our socials. Subscribe to all the channels of the New Rockstars Network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.